हरि ओम पार्वती भगिनी you can start. You're muted. Please.
हरि ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावः दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। हरि ओम।
हरि ओम धन्यवादः भगिनी. Just a minute, we can start. सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So we had completed the 12th verse in the last class, which was Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat jnanat dhyanam vishishyate dhyanat karma phalatyagah tyagat chantiranantaram. So knowledge is indeed superior to meditation without knowledge, right? Meditation which is without knowledge, and meditation itself with knowledge is superior to just plain knowledge, right? So renunciation of the results of action is more superior to meditation, and after that you have peace. And we saw this in detail, which was the 12th verse which we completed in the last class. And with that we also saw that Lord Krishna concludes the first part of his discourse regarding Bhakti Yoga topic. And as we saw in the last two classes, Lord Krishna presents Bhakti Yoga in 5 levels, right? So the first level of Bhakti Yoga is Karma Yoga 1. The second level is Karma Yoga 2. The third level is Upasana Yoga 1. And then you have the Upasana Yoga 2. And then the fifth level is obviously Nirguna Ishvara Vichara Rupa Jnana Yoga. So inquiry into the truth of myself, I, the true nature of, essential nature of I, the world, and God, taking the triangle of Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. So this discovery, Tattva Jnanam Atma, Atma Jnanam or Brahma Jnanam, you can call it any of these three words, they're normally used interchangeably. Tattva Jnanam, Atma Jnanam, Brahma Jnanam, that is the aim of the final Jnana Yoga. And according to Lord Krishna, everybody will have to go through all the 5 levels compulsorily. A person can start with 3rd level in this Janma if he has already gone through the first 2 levels in the previous Janma. Without the previous Janma backup, if a person straight away starts at the 3rd or 4th level, generally it will not work at all. So therefore, everyone has to go through all the 5 levels. And after presenting all of them, Lord Krishna, right, strangely glorified the lowest level as the best or as the highest. Contradicting his own teaching, he presented the Karma Yoga 1, which is the lowest rung of the ladder, as the greatest sadhana. And we saw in the last class that Lord Krishna is actually not contradicting himself, but he wants to encourage the people who are at the beginning level. Therefore, it should be taken as the technical word, right, which is used for that is Arthavadaha or exaggeration. Exaggeration is allowed in glorification, and with that, the 5 levels of sadhanas are over. Now, about Arthavada, when you read Mimamsa Shastram, you learn about these aspects of the language itself, right? So, Arthavadaha is exaggeration, a form of exaggeration. Now, hereafter, Lord Krishna is going to talk about the phalam of Bhakti Yoga, right? Bhakti Yoga phalam will be the topic from 13th verse up to the end of this chapter. Now, as we proceed through the stanzas, just go with the flow. I will present in the next class a summary of all these because I don't think we'll have time to do this, a summary of all what is being talked about from verses 13 to 20 in a tabular form, and then we will do the summary of the 12th chapter itself in next week. So right now from 13th to 20th, let us just go with the flow and understand the meaning. So in the scriptures, okay, let's first chant. Adveshta sarvabhutanam, Adveshta sarvabhutanam, Maitra karuna evacha, Maitra karuna evacha, Nirmamo nirahankaraha, Nirmamo nirahankaraha, Samadukka sukakshami, Samadukka sukakshami. In the scriptures, the self-knowledge is considered to be the solution to the problem of samsara. Therefore, jnana is the only means, jnanam is the only means as a remedy to samsara. Therefore, pursuit of knowledge in the form of shravanam, mananam and nididhyasanam is considered to be the primary pursuit in life. Okay. So, like taking, say, medicine for a disease, right? Jnanam is like the aushadam for bhavaroga samsara. Aushadam is medicine for the bhavaroga samsara. But the scriptures point out whenever a doctor prescribes a medicine, right? Along with that, he will prescribe what? He will prescribe certain do's and don'ts, right? In Ayurveda language, it is referred to as patyam, right? So appropriate do's and don'ts. So for some diseases, they will say, don't take too much oil, fat, etc. Depending upon the disease, the patyam is also prescribed. So pathyams are the supportive cause and the medicine is considered to be the primary cause. Only when both of them are joined, right, you will get full recovery. So medicine without discipline or discipline without medicine, either one will not work. So Shankaracharya says this in Viveka Chudamani, verse 53, right? He says, Patyam aushada sevacha kriyate yena rogina arogya siddhi drishtasya nanyanushtitta karmana. So both are important. The spiritual pursuit is also, right, is exactly like the pursuit of a treatment, right? To remove the type of spiritual disease called samsara or bhavaroga. Therefore, here also the primary medicine is there and patyam is also there. Primary medicine is Vedanta Vichara Jnana Yoga. Without Jnana Yoga medicine, the disease cannot be cured. But the Shastra clearly says mere study of the scriptures will never give you the full benefit of recovery if it is not supported by the patyam called do's and don'ts. So the patyams in Jnana Yoga is certain values and disciplines, right? So in the 16th chapter, the set of healthy values are called Daivi Sampat. We are going to see that in detail, very, very practical and relevant ones, right? And those traits which are spiritually healthy, right? They are called Daivi Sampat, and the ones that are unhealthy are called Asuri Sampat, right? It is nice to remember these two words, Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat, right? The do's and don'ts must be followed by all the spiritual seekers as Patyam, right? And very, very important, it is Patyam, right? In Tamil, Malayalam, all of them, I think they say Patyam. In Sanskrit also it is Patyam, right? So these values are to be practiced right from the beginning stage of spiritual seeking, and the benefit they have got, right, is at several levels. The first benefit is, even without coming to spirituality, assume that a person is not even leaning towards that. But following these disciplines itself will give a lot of, improvement in physical health, mental health, intellectual health, and spiritual health. For simple health and peace of mind, these values can be followed whether he wants or not. Even if you don't want moksha, for good health and mental peace, these values are wonderful. Therefore, Shanti and Arogyam is the first benefit, which is a universal benefit. Then the second benefit, right, if we follow them to the extent that we can afford, right, and absorb, the mind will get more and more refined, which will help in the absorption of the teaching when a person is following Jnana Yoga. Therefore, for a Jnana Yogi, all these virtues are very useful for absorbing the knowledge, right? So the previous benefit is not even for just a Jnana Yogi, it's a universal benefit, everyone's health and peace of mind. But when a person comes to Jnana Yoga for absorbing the teaching, right, these virtues are worthwhile. It makes the mind like a blotting paper, which is just absorbing the ink, right? In every class, entire teaching will go in because the mind is prepared for that, right? So if a person follows this for a very long time, right, And initially it'll take some effort to follow the values, right? But after that, it will start happening naturally, right? So like many people, Swamiji gives this example, they're extremely soft spoken, right? So when you move with them and you observe, you know that they have practiced to be soft spoken and it has become their nature, right? So similarly, Shastra says that if you practice these values for a long time, then they become very, very, very natural. And Shankaracharya uses this expression, right, in his commentary, right? He says, Yani mumukshoho sadhanani, tani sthita prajna lakshanani. That is, whatever are deliberate practices of a spiritual seeker, they become spontaneous traits of a jnani, right? Even after jnanam, right, many of them would have had, would not have had some of these traits. But what happens is as they progress, right, the weaknesses get, the general weaknesses which are there in terms of, obstructing their path, those would start getting weakening, right? They would get weakened, and over a period of time, the Daivi Sampat will become more dominant and it will become natural trait, right? So, and even after, you will actually see that even after Jnanam, right, a person can have some amount of weaknesses, and by praying and by asking for removal of these kind of Asuri Sampat, it will be very less, but even that they have to remove, like a jnani may have anger or, some small thing like this to address. They also, on the path of spirituality, over a period of time, by being aware, they are able to get rid of these Asuri Sampats, right? So, Jnanam has got twofold benefits. One is spiritual benefit and another is practical, mental and health benefit, right? So by Jivan Mukti, we refer to both these. For an jnani who has actually got moksha, right, or within double quotes, he's got both the benefits of spiritual benefit as well as mental benefit, right? So the spiritual benefit is the benefit what? That I am not the body, I am the eternal Atma, right? The discovery is the instantaneous benefit of Jnanam, right? So spiritual benefit is instantaneous after Jnanam, and that benefit is what? I am the ever free Atma, right? But in addition to that, a lot of mental or emotional benefit also we get out of Jnanam, right? So that unique peace and the unique sense of fulfillment is the greatest benefit that I feel in my life, right? And irrespective of all other worldly successes and failures which come and go, right? Irrespective of that, I have this feeling of mission accomplished, right? So Swamiji often gives this example of, you go and play, the cricket players go abroad and play a 5 one-day match. It's a series, right? And the first 3 they win, right? So fourth and fifth, what will their mindset be, right? They are playing the games with a sense of fulfillment because they know they've already won and they're going to take the cup back. So a jnani has this fulfillment which he has gained through spiritual knowledge, and he lives a life with Purnatva. He is not chasing anything. He is not living a life for Purnatvam, but he is living a life with Purnatvam, right? That is the difference. And he is able to handle the ups and downs which are coming in life, taking it in the stride and moving on, saying, okay, this is happening to one of my anatmas, the Pancha Anatma, whether it is body, mind, or family, or possessions, or profession, right? So this is Jivan Mukti. So this is the third phalam of refining the mind by following these values, and therefore Lord Krishna describes a jnani here as the one who has got, right, thorough knowledge and fulfillment, and in addition to this, he enjoys all the virtues spontaneously. Therefore, he enjoys Jivan Mukti, and the natural traits of a jnani who has gone through all the 5 stages successfully is the description. And by describing such a jnani, what is the benefit that we get? Because we are describing this jnani, what do I get? Shankaracharya says that if we sometimes feel that Gita study is not giving us the benefit that it is talking about and it is supposed to give, right? It only means what? We are taking the medicine without following the patyam, right? So we have to follow the Patyam. It has to be deliberately practiced for a long time, and then we have to really see how much we are implementing, right? Whether it is Shamaha, Damaha, mind control, sense control, everything, Ishwararpana Bhava, right? Ishwara Prasada Bhava, all of them. So therefore, it is very useful for a sadhaka to find out actually time to time where he is going wrong, right? So very, very useful to do that check. So all Shankaracharya says, let the study continue, but be alert in your day-to-day transaction. When I say alert, spiritually alert. So if you want Jnanam and Jnana Nishta and Jivan Mukti, right? So very beautiful list is given, and incidentally, we've actually seen them before in a previous Gita chapter. Where have we seen? Sthita Prajna Lakshanani we saw in the very beginning in the second chapter, right? Where Arjuna asked this question. What was the question asked? Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthitadhihi kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim, right? So what are the virtues that a jnani maintains along with the Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam? Arjuna asks, right? In fact, he says, how does he speak? How does he walk? How does he behave? Right? So Lord Krishna gave a list, and Lord Krishna now knows that since it has been from second chapter to 12th chapter, many students would have forgotten, inclusive of Arjuna, and therefore he is reminding us once again, right? A very beautiful set of shlokas actually coming up. Before that, a little more to be seen, right? So the first one itself starts with the difficult virtue of Adveshta, right? So Adveshta is this, right? Adveshta is the first one. So the first one starts with a difficult virtue, which is Adveshta. Never hate anyone. Never, right? If you have a list of people whom you hate, make a list, and your aim should be what? Gradually eliminate, not eliminate people, but eliminate the name from the list, right? So don't eliminate, you can't eliminate everybody in the first go, right? By remembering that in everyone there is God, right? You slowly start, you see Vishwarupa Darshanam, and slowly start removing hatred for people, right? So if we do not have a big list, or if we do not have a list, we are really lucky, because there is not much of vasanas to address here, right? So in the 12th chapter, beginning itself, in the 11th chapter, we saw Vishwarupa Darshanam, and the question was with related to Vishwarupa Darshanam also. So Lord Krishna has said that Bhagavan is present in everyone, and therefore nobody deserves a hatred, and there is no question of a justified hatred or an unjustified hatred, right? So whenever we think of this, we start getting into an explanation, right? Saying, okay, this person did bad, that person did bad. The idea is that we have to at least start diluting the hatred, right? Because the more we have this hatred, it becomes more painful, right? And Swamiji gives this example of your tongue, right? Although it is so small, very, very small, it's always in between the two ranges of teeth. And all the time we move the tongue, and the tongue gets caught sometimes, right? Very rarely, but it happens. And that is really, really painful. And when the teeth bite the tongue, even though it is painful, do you get wild and knock off the teeth? No, right? This is the example Swamiji gives, right? Because you remember that it's the same Atma behind all the teeth and your tongue, right? So Vedanta teaches not only the Atma is behind teeth and tongue and other parts of the body, Atma is behind everyone, and therefore everyone is like our tongue only. Therefore, nobody deserves hatred, right? But that does not mean we should approve of a person's behavior. Very important. Therefore, it doesn't mean that we should approve of a person's behavior, actions, and words absolutely. If a person's behavior or words are harmful to me, Shastra certainly permits us to respond appropriately. We need not suffer the pain. We can take appropriate steps, but the steps should be taken without hatred. Exactly like how the mother, right, when she does not approve the behavior of the child, she takes steps, but she doesn't hate the child. She even warns, she hates, she punishes the child, etc. Right? So we can certainly defend ourselves, protect ourselves, take whatever step is required. So Lord Krishna is asking Arjuna to fight the Mahabharata war, and even if fighting is required, that is not wrong, but in the heart, don't hate anyone. Hate the sin, but not the sinner. So everybody, because of ignorance, comes up with several wrong actions, and ignorance is the problem, and therefore whatever treatment is required, you give, but in the heart of hearts, never hate anyone, right? So if required, you can keep a distance from that person. If you can avoid the person, you can avoid, but without hatred, right? So Vedanta says that no hatred is justified. There's nothing called justified or unjustified hatred. It is also harmful to one's own physical health and mental health and intellectual health, and definitely harmful to spiritual health also. Right? When because of a wrong behavior I am hurt and I'm hating the person, according to Vedanta, you're doubly hurt. That person has hurt you, and you also have hurt yourself by hatred. So do what is to be done to avoid hatred, right? Very important aspect here. So therefore, the first step is to avoid hatred, adveshta, right? And that's why Lord Krishna also uses the word sarva bhutanam. He is not putting a condition, right? You can have few of them, because a few you might have, you may not be able to get out of it, right? Few things, hatred, or few situations or scenarios, right? Or it may be a mild displeasure, right? So the Sarva Bhutana, never hate anyone, because God is there in everyone, and in short, your Atma is in everyone. So this is virtue number 1, right? Adveshta Sarva Bhutana, right? But very difficult, but we have to gradually reduce the list of things, people that we hate, right? So slowly we reduce it to displeasure, and then we try and remove it, right? So the next virtue is Maitra, right? You saw this. This is Maitra. So Maitra is being friendly to everyone, offering whatever help I can give according to the needs, right? In English, they say a friend indeed is a friend. A friend in need is a friend indeed, right? So according to our capacity and resources, be friendly and do whatever you can to do whomever you can, right? Without taking risk, of course, because nowadays we have to be very careful about whom we help also, right? So Maitra is friendliness, right? And the next one is Karuna. Karuna is compassion, being considerate and compassion to others who have gone through pain and difficulty. So in today's time and age, with Corona impacting, there's no dearth of people to whom we can be compassionate, right? So turn towards people in distress. The compassion is only a mental state, right? And the compassion can express itself in the form of any type of help. And suppose I cannot do anything at all, because so many people are suffering in the world, and we, with our limited knowledge, power and wealth, suppose we cannot help all of them, right? Then at least do a prayer for them. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha. So many people might be sick and without medical benefit today, right? So this prayer can go to the whole loka itself, right? So the general prayer can be this, and Sarve Santu Niramaya, and you can pray, right? Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhave, right? So Shanti Mapnuyat, right? So you can do the general sincere prayer, right, for the loka itself, right? And it's a universal prayer along with our daily puja, what we do for the family, right? You cannot stop all of that. The Sakama puja cannot be stopped overnight, but can we add 1 or 2 minutes for the general well-being of the universe and the people, right? So at least one puja or prayer for the world, right? Karunaha. So having a sensitive mind itself will make us understand the difficulties of the other person, right? So it is very easy to dismiss someone, but we have to be considerate in whatever actions we take, especially when we have the power, right? Power must always go with compassion, karuna evacha, right? And then the next one is nirmamaha in the next line, the second line, right? Then nirahankaraha, right? Nirmamaha means dropping the ownership of everything, right? I'm only the trustee, right, of whatever I possess, and I never own anything. Suppose you treat everything that way, your family, your possessions, your profession, everything, right? Bhagavan is the owner of everything. He has given us according to our karma, right? So Bhagavan has given the body for temporary use, and Bhagavan can take away the body at any time, right? No notice is required, right? So he need not give us any notice, right? So I am the user and contributor for everything. Therefore, nirmamaha, freedom from ownership and controllership. I am not a controller, I can only contribute. Even raising the children, Swamiji always says this. Parents always want their children to become this and that, right? There are some parents, after being associated with sannyasis and sadhus, want their sons to become sannyasi. No, that is also very, it doesn't happen, right? So we can only bring up our children, but we cannot have some likes and dislikes which we can impose on them. That won't work, right? So we have wonderful plans, we can recommend, we can do whatever is required for them, but beyond that, they have their own prarabdha, their own vasana, and they will decide to do what they want, and they have their own raga dvesha. So we can never have total control over the children's future, anybody's future for that matter, whom we can only indirectly influence, right? So we do whatever we can to contribute, right? And we pray that everything will happen well, but we are not controllers of everything at all. So the freedom from the sense of ownership and controllership is called nirmamatvam, right? And the tougher one is nirahankaraha. The next one here is nirahankaraha, right? Ownership of outside things is called mamakaraha, right? Like house, family members, profession, possession, property, etc., right? So that ownership is called mamakaraha. Ownership of our own body mind complex is called ahankaraha. So ownership with regard to shariratrayam or panchakosha. I hope we remember shariratrayam and panchakosha, otherwise we have to revise introduction to Vedanta, right? Talk 6 or talk 7, right? So shariratrayam and kosha panchakam, basically my mind, my body, my beauty, right? My leg, my hands, all of that, right? So that is ahankara and the ego itself, right? My brain, my intellect, and I am superior, etc., right? So nirahankara is without ahankara, right? Then samadukkaha, right? Means equanimity or balance, right? Samadukkaha means balance of mind, going through varieties of experiences, favorable or unfavorable. We don't have total control over our experiences, right? Because our experiences are not only determined by our knowledge, skill, and effort, there are many unknown factors which we refer to as purva janma punyam and papam, right? Otherwise called prarabdham, right? So prarabdham is referred to as adrishtam because it cannot be seen, right? And our punyam and papam is maturing daily, and some of them are favorable, some of them are unfavorable. Sometimes you have a whole period when it is favorable, and that is why when people have belief in horoscopes, they say, oh, this dasha is a labhakara dasha or is a very nice dasha, right? Because that is the time when all the punyams are fructifying. In fact, in the horoscope, they also say that this is the papa punya sthanam, right? So they refer to that as that, right? So we can never make our life uniformly favorable. So even Rama and Krishna Avatara are like that. They did not have all good time or bad time, right? Lord Krishna was in fact born in jail, right? And Rama had a very tough life in between, right? So only thing is, by preparing our mind and being aware of this, we can confront any situation with the help of God, because we build up the confidence through prayer and bhakti, right? So whatever be the situation, I can confront and I will be able to cross over the situation, right? So in fact, in the second chapter, we saw Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, Shitoshna Samadukkada, Agama Payino, Nityaha tam stitikshasva Bharata. We saw 215 also, right? So where we talked about the one who has got endurance and tolerance, he alone, right, is great, right? Is spiritually successful. So that is the last one given in this 213 verse, 12-13 verse, which is Shama, right? So how do we improve our endurance and tolerance, right? It has two levels. One is the general level. Endurance we have to increase through all types of austerities, upavasa, ratri jagaranam, then walking up the Tirupati hill, etc., right? So by improving the endurance, we are able to face choiceless situations in life and without generating negative emotions like fear, anxiety, stress, etc., right? So that capacity we refer to as endurance, right? And the second level of endurance, which is very, very important, is the capacity to avoid impulsive response, right? Many occasions when a situation is provoking, our tendency is to impulsively respond. So if we become conscious of this is extremely tough actually to practice. You have to be aware of this on guard all the time if we have to not respond impulsively and actually think through calmly and then respond. Shastra doesn't say don't respond, right? We must observe that carefully, right? So this is very, very important, and many problems today, whether it is in office or in the home, is happening because of impulsive behavior only, right? So I will take appropriate action after sufficient deliberation, right? And we are only avoiding impulsive response and not avoiding response itself, right? So must remember that Shama refers to this and not avoiding response, right? So Shama means first increasing the endurance power so that we have the power to withstand the choiceless situation. And second is taking a vow that I will always avoid impulsive responses, or at least bringing down impulsive responses, right? So such a jnani, right, who has gone through all the 5 levels successfully and who has attained the knowledge of real nature of himself and God, how will he live in this world, right? How does he confront the life situation, right? Moksha is not something after death according to Vedanta, right? So a jnani has learned to manage all the ups and downs in life, and just as a protective cover, like you have an umbrella during a rainy season or a raincoat, right? So he has a kavacham or a protection like a raincoat. Jnanam is the emotional raincoat by which the jnani continues to face the rain of different situations. But he learns to manage the mind with equanimity, and that is what is described in these verses. So that means we can learn to manage the mind in spite of external conditions by the strength of jnanam, and the description of such a jnani is what we saw now. Very, very important and practical aspect of jnana yoga being discussed here. Continuing, santushta satatam yogi, santushta satatam yogi, yatatma drida nishchayah, yatatma drida nishchayah, mayyarpitamano buddhihi, mayyarpitamano buddhihi, yo madbhaktas same priyah, yo madbhaktas same priyah. Satatam santushta jnani is one who is happy, contented, fulfilled by the very strength of knowledge of his real nature. Atma Sachidananda Swarupaha, right? This discovery itself gives joy and fulfillment, right? So therefore, he is not particular about the external possessions that he has, because according to Vedanta, happiness and fulfillment don't depend upon what we have. It depends upon what we are. So happiness and fulfillment don't depend upon what we have, but on what we are, right? That is why there are so many people who do not have much property and wealth, but they are still fulfilled and satisfied, right? Indicating that possessions do not give fulfillment, right? And you have sannyasis who have renounced everything, who don't even have a house and who live on bhiksha, who are very, very happy without all of them. Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha, right? Just by contrasting, right, to people who have lots of money and who are not satisfied, and a sannyasi who has nothing and who has a sense of purnatvam. We understand this, right? So, very important aspect of the jnani, satatam santushtaha, right? And on the other hand, even, right, there may be a sannyasi. A sannyasi need not be a jnani, remember that, right? He has taken a path to become a jnani, but there could be a sannyasi who's got caught up with, so many ashramas and is wondering how to get the funding for the ashrama. He doesn't have an ashrama in the US, he doesn't have an ashrama in India. Such kind of unfulfilled desires may be there, right? So the jnani, the moksha is associated with the state of mind and not with actually what you are and what you possess, etc., right? So it is very, very important to note that, right? So ajnanam, right, we have to actually address the ajnanam on what the possessions and the pancha anatma, and therefore the jnani who is santushta or contented is happy with or without anything, right? So whether he has property, possession, or he doesn't have, none of these bother him, right? So such a person is satatam santushtaha. That is what is referred to here, right? So, and Swamiji always says that whether it is a sannyasi or a grihastha jnani, you have to lead an alert life so that you don't fall into this trap, right? So therefore satatam yogi and yatatma, right? Here the word atma means karya karana sangataha, the body mind sense complex, right? And restraining of this means before a verbal and physical expression of his thoughts, he always filters his thoughts to find out whether they are dharmic or adharmic, right? Because in our subconscious mind, the vasanas are there. Therefore, sometimes this vasana will continuously generate thought, and that thought is what becomes, comes out as a verbal expression. That's why if you see some people, if they don't have restraint in early childhood on using swear words, they continue to use that, and you will see it comes out more when they are not in control and they are sick, etc. Because the language then becomes bad, it comes out of the vasanas itself, right? So it is very important for us to make sure that deep in the mind level we address these issues so that those do not come out as verbal or physical expressions, right? So the vasana especially has been gathered over multiple janmas. We can only address what we are acquiring in this janma, right? So the alert jnani is very, very careful about this aspect, right? So even when we are doing karma yoga, we start practicing this, right? And for many years later, we do shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam. So for a jnani, right, for him this becomes a second nature to him, right? So while following mental disciplines, he does not want to forget the Vedantic teaching also. Therefore, he practices nididhyasanam, aham brahmasmi, right? He practices that and reminds himself all the time that atma is nityaha, sarvagataha, sthanuhu, etc. Right? So that he keeps reminding himself that ahankara and mamakara should not, come in front, right? Because every day when you, either do panchakosha viveka or shariratraya viveka in your meditation, and then you end it with say mayeva sakalam jatam, right? Then you are able to dilute your ahankara and mamakara and make sure that you do not have that strong vasanas towards it, right? And also the practice of Vishwarupa Upasana also helps that, so that he can transcend all of them and actually go to Advaita Bhakti, right? So Advaita Bhakti, he is the final stage at which the highest level of Bhakti, right? So many people think that Vedanta is inimical to Bhakti, right? But it is not so, right? So when you go to higher level, you don't lose the lower level, right? And he enjoys that also. One great Bhakta actually says that Advaita Jnanam and Dvaita Bhakti, they go so well together and they are beautiful and enjoyable. Therefore, Mayarpita Mano Buddhihi, right? So when he enjoys Dvaita bhakti, not as a samsari, right? But he enjoys it as a asamsari, jnani, right? And when as an Ajnani he goes to temple, what does he go for? He cries and he asks for something or the other, right? His problem, Artha Bhakti, Artharthi Bhakti, we saw all of that. But as a Jnani, he goes to the temple with fulfillment, right? Just to enjoy, right? The God in different forms. That's all, in different Nama Rupa. So such a Bhakta me priyaha, Krishna says that this Bhakta alone is dearest to me because he has gone through all the levels of bhakti that I have taught, right? So very important aspect of how we have to address the vasanas and make sure that we move towards Advaita Bhakti. यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोकः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः Mukto yassa cha me priyaha. So he continues to live in this world, right, which continues to give varieties of experiences, but he makes sure that those experiences don't have the power to disturb the mind, right? According to Vedanta, we alone lend power to the world to disturb our mind, because when I purchase an object, it is an innocent object. I can use that object, nothing wrong, right? But by constantly using, I get attached to it. In fact, Swamiji gives this example. He brings I think it's a pink or an orange color clip to the class, and then he uses, if you note this carefully, he uses that clip to clip his the pages of the book or something. He hardly brings any notes to the class, only the text that he teaches, right? So he just clips it. He says, suppose I get attached to the clip and say, oh, when I bring the orange clip, my class is good. When I bring the pink clip, the class is not good. That's also an attachment, right? So the object didn't do anything. It is our mindset which is a problem, right? So you can go for matches, you can enjoy the match and come, but getting overly obsessed with it, right? And creating an attachment is the problem. So same way with your family members, your children, right? Learning to give in and learning to let them go, right? Let go, I would say, right, is the most critical aspect that one learns in the spiritual journey. And I alone gave the power of developing this raga dvesha, and Jnani is aware of the fact, and he, as Swamiji puts it, disempowers the world, right? Therefore, yasmat na udvijate lokaha Lokanna udvijate cha yad jnani is one who is not disturbed by the world, and also the one who does not disturb others also, because he knows that others have got their own ragadvesha. He might be free, right? But others have their own ragadvesha, and respecting others ragadvesha, he doesn't disturb them also. He tries to tell. He expresses his wishes, but he always says recommendations. Don't force beyond that, right? So a jnani respects the raga dvesha in others, right? And doesn't force beyond that. So what is moksha? Disempowering the world with regard to its capacity to disturb me, right? Very, very difficult, easily said than done. But when I say that, we have to slowly start practicing this. And when we do this, we find a lot of mental peace. And because of this reason, muktaha, his mind is free from the following general problems, the emotional problems. What are they? Harshaha means elation, right? Overjoy, excitement when things are favorable, or Amarshaha means envy, when things are not favorable for me and when things are favorable to my neighbor, right? And there is too much dukkha when it is favorable to others, right? A lot of jealousy, envy, right? Then bhayam. Bhayam means panic, because when things are favorable, I'm always afraid that the evil eye will strike, right? Swamiji always says in most houses you will have either a Drishti Ganapati or you will have some, that the pumpkin face, something you will have, right? So always we are scared of the evil eye coming, right? So we want to do some pariharam or other. We are always having that bhayam, and udvegaihi means agitation or anxiety, right? So the mind is never relaxed, all the time disturbed due to one reason or the other, right? So the definition of a jnani is that this disturbance will radically come down, and we don't say the disturbance will become zero, never, right? They all will be there, vasanas are there, but only thing is you must remember our famous acronym FIR reduction will happen. FIR is frequency, intensity and recovery period of a emotional disturbance, right, will start coming down, right? So that is moksha. So the inner relaxation is Jivan Muktihi, right? Harsha, Marsha, Bhaya, Udvegaihi, Muktaha, free from all the emotional disturbances. Yasa me priyaha. Such a bhakta is dear to me, Krishna says, right? Continuing. अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः अनपेक्षशुचिर्दक्षः उदासीनो गतव्यतः उदासीनो गतव्यतः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः. Anapeksha, right? So apeksha means emotional dependence on external factors. So emotional dependence is empowering the world, right? External factors meaning things, situations, people. We have to transact with these things. We have to be with people, but we have to be very alert and avoid getting emotionally dependent on people or things, right? So we have to practice and be alert to live like that, right? So therefore the slogan of our shastra is Sarvam Paravasham Dukkham. Dependence is sorrow. Sarvam Atmavasham Sukham. Independence is happiness. No doubt we have to depend on things and people, but learn to minimize them. Even if people don't come home, Corona actually taught us this, to do our work, the maids, etc., right? Doesn't matter, there is nothing wrong, right? We can try and do that work so that we don't get dependent on them. And I think this last few months has provided us that opportunity to feel that we could do that. Even in the absence of all that, we can still manage. Of course, in India the dust is quite a bit on the roads, but still we have been able to manage without depending, because we took it in the stride and we went. So always any form of dependence on people, whether it is family, whether it is the people who work for us, any of those is a one form of a attachment only, right? So we should actually learn to manage with lesser and lesser dependence, and that capacity is called anapeksha. That's the first one, right? So lesser and lesser types of dependence, right? So that is anapeksha. And then the second one is, we will see that lesser and lesser dependence. And even say food, right? Very important aspect. Now suppose we are very much bothered about the specification of food. Many people have that such strong likes and dislikes about how crisp the dosa should be, how much ghee should be there in the dosa, etc. So first thing, if we try and practice this, we don't even have to tell anybody. We practice this, saying one day if the food is not good, it's okay, we just eat quietly and move on, and we manage with whatever is available. That itself is a good way of checking whether we are developing anapeksha or not, right? So even a sannyasi, with respect to bhiksha, he has to develop this, because one house they may put lot of pepper, another house they may put lot of chili, right? And the third house may have lot of salt or may not have salt at all. So just imagine when sannyasis go from house to house or for bhiksha, how the taste will differ. They also have their own parameters that they have to monitor, right? Blood pressure, sugar, etc. So anapeksha is trying to be as minimalistic as possible without dependency, right? Then Shuchihi is the second one here in this verse. Shuchihi is cleanliness at different level. This has been stressed so much in the Gita, right? Desha Shuddhi, Deha Shuddhi, Anna Shuddhi, Vak Shuddhi, Mana Shuddhi, right? All of them, right, are very, very important. And in fact, there is a New Year talk by Swamiji where he has spoken about all the Shuddhis, right? But the toughest one is Vak Shuddhi, right? And about Vak Shuddhi, in fact, I don't remember the shloka number. There is a very famous shloka in Gita itself. It starts Anudvega Karam Vakyam, Satyam Priyam Hitam. Only speak what is good for the others, which is truthful, which is also pleasing to hear, right? And which is appropriate. We will see that. I think it comes up in the, I don't remember the exact chapter, maybe 17th or 16th, right? So we will look at that when we come there. Vak Shuddhi is very, very important. Manas Shuddhi is also very important, right? So for a Jnani, these are very important aspects, and this helps in the Jnani developing efficiency. And so, contrary to popular belief, very many people keep asking, oh, if we go in the Jnana Yoga way, will we stop doing work properly and all of that? It's the reverse. Efficiency is developed more and more, right, as you become a Jnani, and because of which a Jnani is a really capable and competent administrator also, right? And so it is a very important side benefit, right? And of course, Dakshaha, he can make decisions without any confusion, because a calm mind can take a decision, and therefore a Jnani is able to take quick decisions, which are difficult decisions, but very quickly he can take that by analyzing the pros and cons and moving on without dilly-dallying, right? And if you actually live a life remembering all of these every day and being aware, I'm sure, you know, with the passage of time, we will also improve on each of these parameters, right? So every decision will involve success and failure, but Jnani is very quick to analyze this and take decisions because he has a calm mind. Then Udasinaha, right? Udasinaha means the one who does not become part of any group, right? So he's not part of any groupism, right? So there's no groupism, right? And by avoiding this, you become an independent kind of person, and spirituality helps in transcending groupism. People call you, fine. People don't call you, okay. People talk, it's okay. If they don't talk to you, it is okay, right? So, and then impartial, right? Udasinaha and Gatavyataha. Vyataha means agitation. So, Gatavyataha means he is free from agitation. And even if they do come, the agitations can never be avoided 100%, but it will go away immediately. And it's always useful to train our mind towards some japa, because when we have these kind of situations, we can quickly go and calm down by doing those japas, right? Even grihasthas have japas or sandhya vandanam, whatever, right? So it immediately helps us calm down, right? Very important aspect, gatavyataha, right? So sarvarambha parityagi. So arambaha means all the binding karmas, sakama karmas are called arambha karmas, and so sakama karma parityagaha, right? So as soon as you, right, start activities, the burden starts coming in. So without having attachment, if you can have nishkama, non-binding activities, right? Develop non-binding activities. Basically involve in projects, involve in activities, but do it with Ishwararpana Bhava. So the action should be a purposeful activity, but we must remember that the result is not always in my hand, right? So even Swamijis have these problems, right? They may have their own projects, etc., right? So very important aspect. In fact, in third chapter, we saw a verse, Mai Sarvani Karmani Sanyasyad Atma Chetasa Nirashir Nirmamo Bhutva Yudhyasva Vigatatchwaraha. Without the mental fever, right, you can perform activities. So at Karma Yoga level itself, this is very much applicable. So what to say at Jnana Yoga level for a Jnani, right? So very, very important aspect here. Continuing. Yo na hrishyati na dveshti Yo na hrishyati na dveshti, na shochati na kankshati, na shochati na kankshati, shubha shubha parityagi, shubha shubha parityagi, bhaktimanyah same priyah, bhaktimanyah same priyah. Almost the reinforcement of the previous ideas. Yana kankshati na dveshti, right? Na kankshati na dveshti, right? Kanksha means ragaha, dveshti means dvesha. So the one who reduces raga and dvesha, likes and dislike, and converts them to non-binding desires, right? So basically detoxification of strong raga dvesha. What is the advantage? Na hrishyati na shochati, right? He is neither elated nor has any form of depression, right? No uncontrollable excitement or any depression also, right? So he doesn't get extremely excited or extremely upset, right? So in Sanskrit they say ati sarvatra varje. Therefore a jnani is one who also is happy and he's not gloomy also all the time, but he's always, he avoids extremes, right? By diluting raga dvesha, na shochati. And then shubha ashubha parityagi, right? Shubha means punya karma and ashubha means papa karma. In all of them he gives up attachment, right? So punya papa karma parityagi. So if he becomes a sannyasi, he is supposed to give up all karmas, good and bad, right? He in fact removes even the sacred thread, right? He gives up all ritualistic, religious rituals, right? So there is no punyam, there is no papam. He's given up all the karmas, right? So nothing he is expected to do. Even grihasthas, as they grow older and they are not able to do the rituals, it is okay. We can stop it with manasa puja. So we can dilute our strong raga towards rituals and have just manasa puja. So jnani is one who avoids even the golden shackle, shubha ashubha parityagi, bhaktiman ya same priyah. Such a person is my Priya Bhakta, right? Continuing. Samashatrau cha mitre cha, samashatrau cha mitre cha, tatamanapamanyoh, tatamanapamanyoh, shitoshna sukha dukkeshu, shitoshna sukha dukkeshu, samasanga vivarjitah, samasanga vivarjitah. Another very important virtue or trait of a jnani, which is worth practicing, is samatvam, right? So we will face pairs of opposites, which happens, which is inevitable in life, but having this attitude, right, is very, very important. Samatvam we have seen several times in the Gita, right? So Krishna gives a few examples. Shatrocha mitrecha, right? Whether it is someone whom we don't like, who makes us unhappy, or someone who we like, who makes us happy, right? With both of them, right? And mana, apamana yoho. In some places we may be disrespected, some places we may be extremely well respected, right? Both we should develop an attitude in such a way that it cannot disturb my mind, right? Even Rama and Krishna could not escape mana and apamana. When the Samantaka gem was stolen, Lord Krishna had to face that apamanam, right? Of having, stolen the Samantaka money, right? So very difficult, but even avatarams go through this mana and apamana. Shitoshna sukha dukkeshu. You can understand extreme heat and cold, right? Discomfort and comfort. Basically, Jnani has understood that reacting is not going to change the situation. Reaction only makes the situation worse, right? So if I learn to accept the impact, the pain becomes lesser and lesser, right? So instead of asking why should this problem come to me and feeling morose and very pained, right? Instead, if our attitude towards the problem changes, right, then the pain will only, for instance, you have a physical pain, it will remain at the biological level rather than impacting us emotionally, right? So life is anyway governed by desha, kala and prarabdha, and therefore we have to accept several choiceless situations also, right? So where remedies are possible, we can attempt. So acceptance will quieten the mind, and this is called samatvam, right? So we will see the rest of the verses in the next class and also do the summary in the next class. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, are there any questions? Just opening that. Yeah, there are no questions. There's just a comment saying, yes, when we raise children, we have a problem. Yeah, today that's a problem all over the world. We have to be very careful about the words that we use when we are bringing up children, because it can stick to them and, it can be really bad. That is true. That is just a comment. Anybody else has any other questions? I don't think there are any questions today here. Okay, so next week we will complete 12th chapter and we'll do a quick summary, and I will also give you a tabulated column of where this is there. Yeah, Mohana, please go ahead.
Namo Namaha Bhagini. I have one comment today. Every time in my age group, that's our older age group, when we walk, everybody says one thing: I don't want next Janma. I don't want next Janma. I want to pray. That's the only wish I have, the only desire. But whatever we are doing, we are not doing towards that. We are still trading options. At my age, my lady friends, they do option trading from morning till night when they don't need the money. And the desire is, I don't want Punarjanma. I tell them I'm so worried I may be not born a worm if he can give me another birth,
Oh, okay.
How to...
Swamiji says this, and so I have to give you this assurance. Swamiji says if you attend Gita class, you will definitely have a human Janma.
Oh, that is, thank you. At least that much I'm happy.
And also
that much I'm so happy.
Opportunity to tell you all that there is a very strange tradition that Swamiji says, because it's a tradition amongst the Grihasthas, I make it a point to inform people, which is once you complete the 18 chapters of the Gita, it is recommended that all of us should attend Gita Mahatmyam class. I think I should keep repeating that, because the entire phalam of having heard the Gita is apparently vested in just that Gita Mahatmyam. Swamiji says this is not my saying, but this is what the Karma Kanda says. So it is important for me to communicate to you. And in Gita Mahatmyam, they say that if you have attended Gita, you are sure to have a Manushya Janma. So you can.
Bhagini, will you be doing the class, Mahatmyam, Gita Mahatmyam class? Will you continue, please?
I also need to do it. That will be always the last class after the 18th chapter. I will make sure that we start announcing ahead of time. Okay.
Dhanyavada.
Anybody else? Okay. So yeah, there's somebody else. 1 second. No, I think we're done. Okay. So next week we will meet then. Okay. Thank you. Sthita Prajna Lakshanam, what is the shloka number? I think it is 258 or 260. You can check that. It's there in the slides, so I will anyway put up the slides. Okay. Thank you. Dhanyavadaha. Hari Om.